Okay, just a brief video to add a little more information about that resume 2, which is due this week, which you should be, I did an more extensive video last week about it. You should look back at that. The actual handout for the instructions are actually in last week also, so you can go look back at that. I'm going to show it to you right now. There it is. Okay. And I want to show you something which I wrote in a note last week, but I want to emphasize, as you're getting feedback from me, I'm specifically telling you, probably for most of you, I'm saying, okay, good start, but now you need to add a lot more stuff as you move into HTML. Okay, good. And I'm also, likely in many cases, I'll suggest you go and look at some of the other student resumes so you can see how they're put together. And let's go look at that together, shall we? I may also be telling you about certain categories that you've missed that you need to add in. All right. And one more thing before we go look at the student stuff. When I tell you in feedback to this resume exercise, for instance, yes, good, but now you need to do this, this, and this. If when we get to resume 3, which of course will be the next stage, right, you haven't done those things, that will be a significant deduction. On the other hand, if I ever tell you to do something you disagree with, or you have a different idea about, well, then let's have a conversation about it. Good, we can do that. That's fine. But if I say, yeah, you didn't do your interests and hobbies, and you need to have that category for the next stage, and then you don't, well, that's going to be a significant deduction. Okay, so just a reminder that you can find the sample resumes from students from past semesters on Moodle. Here it is. I click on it. It looks like this. It's taking a little longer than usual. There it goes. Okay. And let's go look at Lee Cheng's that we looked at before. But we're not looking at the cover letter now. Remember, we're looking at the resume. Now, when you look at these student samples, yes, the resume is split up into multiple pages. You're not doing that yet. No, you're just doing one single long HTML document. Don't worry, that'll come later. Okay? But we can still get some ideas, see the general idea. Okay? First of all, do notice that there is an objective, and the word objective is an H2, right? And it's followed by a paragraph, a P, paragraph, right? And then there's another H2, which is education. Let's talk about education for a minute, because typically this is a category where you have a lot that you're going to need to add in, all right? Yes, we have an H2, which is education, then an H3, which is the name of the college, and it could just say, it probably should just say SUNY Plattsburgh, because the location could go in this. You know what kind of list this is? This is simply an unordered list. Yes, the bullets are different. That was done in CSS. Don't worry about that yet. We're not doing CSS yet. Don't worry about the colors or any of that stuff. We're just talking about raw HTML. So it won't look as fancy and pretty as this. And you won't have images yet. You won't have fonts, special fonts. But you do want to have a number of short items in a UL here. So probably the location could go here too. Because remember, the person who's looking at this could be anywhere. So they don't know where Plattsburgh is. So you're probably going to mention it. They also don't know what SUNY Plattsburgh is. So you're probably going to want a paragraph describing the college and or your relationship to it or something else. In fact, you can look through a few of these and you'll see how they handle this paragraph differently. Then you're going to see maybe as a separate paragraph or part of this paragraph, a note that says, here are some courses that are moving me towards my goals, or something like that, right? And then there's a colon. And then guess what we have here? This is a DL. So yes, we've got H1, then H2, then H3, then a UL, then a paragraph, then a DL, a listing of courses. It could be 3, 4, 5, 6 courses. And maybe you have multiple colleges. Maybe this whole thing is repeated for another college, as she did, except she didn't put courses in here. She could have. Or maybe you put a high school down there. Maybe a high school is just a couple of UL list items and then a shorter paragraph. That's fine. Or maybe there's more in the high school you want to do for some reason. So education is an area where you're certainly going to almost certainly going to need to add stuff in. And this is the structure as you move in HTML that you're going to use. You're going to use an H2, H3, a UL with LIs, a paragraph, and then some kind of a listing of courses that you think are important to mention to show the kinds of things you were taking that relate to the job you're looking for probably. All right, good. Let's look at experience. This is typically jobs and internships and things like that. She has employment, of course, which is, and look at how, well, of course, remember this is a separate page here, but yours is going to be one long page. Employment, or what are you going to call it? Then she lists her jobs. Now, in her case, she does these double lists, but I think it'd be better if you do, let's find somebody else's to go to. Let's see, let's look at Asia's. Let's look at her employment. Okay, good. She does an H2 for the employment, an H3 for the type of job, babysitting or dance or whatever, right? And then she does a UL for when, and then she does where in the UL, and then she does a description of the job in a paragraph. So I like this structure for the jobs, because there should be a significant amount to tell us about the jobs, each job that you have. And then volunteerism could be the same structure or it could be different. Let's go look at somebody else's. Let's look at Samantha. I'm not sure what she did for. She did work experience. She did this. She just did a long list in this case. Community service. She just did the name of the thing and then the place and so on, then a list. Not the best one probably. That's the best example. Let's look at how about Julian? Volunteerism. He did the an H2, an H3, and then a paragraph. Interest in hobbies. He did essentially, this is a DL for interest in hobbies. Unusual fonts he used there. Awards and honors, he just did a listing. And let's look at somebody. Let's go back to Li Ching for a minute. Let's go to About Me. So skills, let's talk about skills, let's talk about honors, let's talk about interests and hobbies. So skills, it's typical to have two lists of skills. So we have two different lists within that heading, H2, H3, H3, and then she did a DL in here, which is fine. But however you do it, I think a DL is probably the best choice, because you name a skill and then you describe what's important about it, or what you can do. You name a skill and describe what's important about it, and what you can do. It could be things like hard worker, good at teams, or so on. And the tech skills is probably software, but it could be other tech skills also. I think that's also a good structure for other things that don't require a lot of explanation. The DL would be good for awards and honors and so on. And for interest and hobbies, it might just be a paragraph. It might be a DL. It might just be a UL. You decide. So you're starting to get an idea as you look through these that this is pretty extensive. I mean, you could have 5, 6, 7 things in each of these skill categories, and each one might have a couple of sentences that follow it, right? Education could be what would be the equivalent of an entire page. Now, in all these resumes, you're going to see another category, at least one more at the end, which has to do with samples of people's work. We're not doing that yet, so leave that aside for now. So I hope that this gave you a general idea of where you're headed with this resume, and then go look back at the instructions. And remember, you're gonna have a zip folder which just has the resume in it.